Over centuries, women have played a pivotal role in defining the groundbreaking innovations that have shaped technology as we know it today. From historic programming to aeronautical engineering to revolutionary coding to female empowerment within technology to the ideas that shapes today's digital world, the work of women has been fundamental to the crafting of today's technology. But from workplace bias and stereotypes to gender discrimination, women have constantly faced numerous challenges in the workplace, especially in high-pressure industries within technology. So to dive further into this topic, we spoke to a pioneer within the German microengineering and biotechnology sector and former CEO and CTO at OSPIN, Dr. Nina Buffi, about her journey to leadership within the tech and engineering field, women's mental health in high-pressure industries, and what companies can start to do to support women's mental health within the workplace. Here's how it went. Today we've got an amazing guest joining us. She's an official author after recently completing her first novel. She's a blogger, a mental health advocate, and a former CEO and CTO within the German biotechnology industry at OSPIN, Dr. Nina Buffi. Buffi?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, actually, Buffi, if you want to restrict, but it's an Italian surname, that's why. But it's totally fine how you pronounce it, no worries.
Amazing. So firstly, congratulations on the completion of your first novel. I saw that on your LinkedIn post that you recently finished it. It's with the editors now, right?
Yeah, I sent it to an editor. I mean, I picked a few editors that I think they could be interested, and especially one was recommended to me. So I sent it to them. They got back to me and said, okay, we are going to review, we are going to get back to you. So hopefully they're going to like it. If not, I'm going to try with somebody else. Let's see. I'm going to fight for that.
Amazing. So if you don't mind me asking, what can we look forward to once it's out? What's it about? What's it going to be about?
So it's about the fact that mental wounds or mental trauma is invisible, and since it's invisible, sometimes it gets neglected or it gets misunderstood and is not treated properly, simply because we don't see. If I have a broken leg and everybody sees it and it's like, okay, you need to seek support, we have to operate you or whatever, but if something happens in your mind, nobody sees it. Sometimes we also don't know how to treat it to some extent, so it's a tricky thing. But it's not a book about, like, it's a novel. It's based on my story. But that's the message I want to convey, that it's important to address the trauma that happened in your mind, not only in your body, so to say.
Amazing. That's so interesting. So, and when can we expect it to come out?
That depends a bit on the editor. I think that they still need a few weeks to review the thing. And I'm not an expert. I mean, it's the first time I do it, so I don't really know what the timing is going to be. I hope by the end of the year, but we'll have to see. It's not in my full control, so I don't know.
Can imagine. Okay, amazing. Well, we're looking forward to that anyway. And we look forward to the updates from your LinkedIn page to know what the progress is on that. Cool. All right. So I'm just going to dive into your career or your previous career within the biotechnology industry. So can you tell us a bit about your journey within the biotechnology industry? What inspired you to pursue a career within biotechnology, and how you came to be the CEO at OSPIN?
Yeah, sure. So I studied engineering, actually. So my microengineering, that's my background. So microengineering is engineering for, like, focusing on small devices like watches, pacemakers, and stuff like that. And as a student, I was like, okay, that's so interesting, but it was a bit dry, maybe engineering alone. So I was looking to combine engineering with something else. And then I saw that there are people that combine engineering with biology, with chemistry, with medicine. And I thought, okay, that appeals to me. That's interesting. So I then did a PhD, was also formally in the engineering department, but I was working together with biologists, and we combined our knowledge to develop solutions, including engineering and biology. And after that, while I was in Berlin, I studied in Switzerland, and then I was in Berlin, and I was looking for a job. And I came across two people who just founded a company and was developing some engineering solution for labs, for scientists in biology or in chemistry. And I found that fascinating, and I started there. And the advantage of a startup environment is that if you want to take responsibility, if you want to try new things, if you want to say, hey, I'm here, I'm going to do it, you can. You have a lot of freedom. And that's how it happened that I could become then at the end CEO is because you have those chances in a startup environment, and that's so. If you want to grow, if you want to learn a lot, I think I can only recommend it.
Amazing. So as a female leader, so of course you reached it all the way to the top, did an amazing job at OSPIN. Of course, it is a very male-dominated industry within tech or within, I'm sure, just engineering in general. So what notable challenges did you encounter during the early and more recent stages of your career progression?
Yeah, so it's definitely true in the sense when I was studying, we were like, I don't know, I think 200, 150 students, and we were 7 women or something. So of course, maybe these days is different. I'm speaking about, I don't know, 2004. So probably a few things have changed, but it was definitely like that. To be honest, I encountered many people that were supporting me. So we often listen to stories where there is a bit of discrimination, of a bit of like, what is she doing here, and so on. Talking about my personal experience, I got a lot of support. If like, I just, want to share my story, and I didn't like, for instance, just as a memory I have, during my study, we had to do an internship in a company. Yeah. And it was clearly like there was no women in that. It was a mechanic shop, and there were no women. And I did this internship with a classmate of mine. And sometimes there were maybe a few comments or, a few. And this classmate of mine was always defending me and always like, hey, guys, let's stop it here. So I always encounter people, very considerate and even helping out in some tricky situation. And even at OSPIN, the founder of the company, his name is Jan, he always pushed me also to say, hey, dare to take on this role. You are doing great. Just go for it. So actually, my experience is a pretty good one. It's maybe an exception, so I don't know, but I can only speak for myself. Yeah, I got to know many amazing people who helped me actually getting through. So that's my story actually.
That's the thing. Is a really good thing that in situations like that, there's a lot of supportive people that want to push opportunities forward for women, or want to make women feel more comfortable in those situations where there's so many men in the room with them. But it is at the same time that is, sadly, it doesn't apply to all industries, and it's clear to see that stereotypes about whether women can cope in high pressure work environments have surfaced over time. And in seeing these opinions, it is natural to feel as if you don't belong. So have you ever experienced imposter syndrome or started to doubt your abilities because of any of these stereotypes that you might have seen online or anything like that? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I definitely felt sometimes, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. I cannot really tell you if it's because of the stereotype or because, we all are sometimes a bit insecure, or we don't feel like, it's difficult to accept the cause, so to say. Mm-hmm. But I definitely was in a situation where I felt like, oh, okay, I'm not sure I can do that, or I'm not sure, are we sure I'm the right person to do the job? And definitely. Yeah. Especially at some point with a company, we had a partnership with an older company, but with a traditional company, 75 years of history and so on, and led by people 20 years older than me and so on. So that was like, okay, I felt insecure, of course. Yeah. I think what helps a lot is to speak about it, like to have maybe a mentor or to have people around you where you can voice those concerns. Amazing. What helps me a lot is journaling. So just write it down and say, oh, I feel it like that. And I will, or like, for instance, I don't know, you just have a meeting in the afternoon, meeting some people, you feel like, okay, I'm not at the same level or whatever. And you just write down on paper, literally, I'm gonna do great at the meeting. I am good enough and stuff like that. Very basic. It seems trivial. Like if 10 years ago, somebody would have told me, I was like, that doesn't really work. For me, it does. Like, amazing. Giving voice to your fears, writing them down, speak with people. That got me through.
So women in high pressure industries often face unique challenges that can impact their mental health. Now I know you're a huge advocate for mental health and creating a society where mental health is lifted to the same stature to that of physical health, as you said in your novel. So what triggered your passion on the topic, and can you share some of the challenges that you personally faced and how you managed them?
Sure. Yeah. So it goes both on a personal level, if you want, and on a professional level. Let's maybe start on a professional level. So I started in this startup, and of course you want to be successful, and you want to. And there is the pressure, the simple pressure of like paying yourself a salary and paying the other people a salary. When the company is small, you are really facing those challenges of not having enough money. So you have strict deadline. You need to complete projects, because if you don't complete the project, you're not gonna get paid. If you don't get paid as a company, you cannot pay your people. So there is this kind of stress. And there I push it. I made the experience of pushing too far from myself, where you find yourself working day and night on the weekend and so on, where at some point you realize, hey, I need to take a break here, because in a sense I need to slow down, otherwise I'm just gonna get crazy. I mean, it's not a medical word to use, but it's like it's too much. My body, my mind cannot handle that. Also, you need enough sleep, you need exercise, and this kind of thing. So I lived on my own, like I really lived, I experienced myself. What does it mean when you push it too far? So there, when you realize it on yourself, you then start to be aware of like other people and say, okay, I also want to make sure that other people don't go through the same, or like make sure that they're doing well mentally, physically, and so on, to avoid that they are then in the same situation I was. So that was on a professional level, really, of like mental well-being and taking care that you take proper rest, and that week after week you don't become tired and more tired and so on. On a more private level, this mental health is because I lived as a teenager one major traumatic event where that was not really addressed, in the sense that was a bit of a society like tragedies happen, bad things happen, we just go on, we react, and we go back to school or go back to work, which was a bit the approach of back in those days. We're speaking about 2000 and so on, so 24 years ago. That was a bit the standard. And I realized many years later how important it is to get a therapist, for instance, to ask for help and say, hey, this happened to me, I need to speak about it, I need to heal. As you, again, we were speaking at the beginning, as if I break my legs and the leg has to heal and somebody has to put a cast on it. So the same thing. So the combination of this professional part and this more personal made me understand how mental health, how important it is, mental health.
I'm looking forward to the book, because I feel like the book is gonna, the fact that it's a novel. So what is are you kind of like conveying a story so that people understand it more, or?
Yes, the idea is to convey my story. So I briefly say that I went through a traumatic event. So is that story in form of a novel? But it also is not just about what happened. It's just like to each of us happened something different. So that's not really the point. The point is more like the journey of healing, the journey of accepting, the journey of how to deal with it, and so on. So I'm sharing in maybe some general term or from different perspective how was my healing journey, how did I get through it, and with the hope that other people can recognize themselves and say, and then I could do it like that, and then also starting a dialogue and say there are other people out there that live difficult situations, and have an exchange about how do we deal with those.
So as we now move into an era of remote and hybrid work, how did you maintain a healthy work-life balance in a demanding industry like biotechnology, and what strategies do you use to prioritize your mental well-being?
Blocking, like as simple as blocking time in your day, where you say, okay, here I'm going to do an hour of sport, or it can be whatever, just taking a walk or whatever you like. So really blocking time and prioritizing. It's easy to go in this cycle of, I need to do that and this and this, and just like forgetting about your well-being. So to really put a priority and not put if you are physically and mentally healthy, you are also going to be more performant, and you're going to enjoy more what you do. So it's very important to balance it. And in that sense, to just block in your calendar and say, I don't know, from 9 to 10, I'm just going to go out for a run, or from 12 to 1 or whatever. And also what helped me a lot is meditation, to also have, again, in your calendar, it's okay, this is half an hour, I'm not reachable, I'm going to do that. And really be strict as if it was a meeting with an investor or something. Okay. And that's my solution.
Right, so similarly to the last question, in your opinion, what can management within organizations begin to do to support the mental health of women in the workplace, especially in high pressure industries?
So, well, I think a first good start, or at least what we tried at OSPIN, is to have regular one-on-ones with the people, where it's not just about work performance or projects or whatever, but it's also about how the people are feeling. So to, at least in trying to establish, of course, it doesn't work for the first time, but we're trying to really establish a dialogue and really asking the people, how are you doing, and figure it out if there is any trouble and so on. And yeah, that's these types of one-on-one, in my opinion, can already help to instaurate some kind of culture where we speak about those things. That's very important.
Yeah.
If the company is bigger and the resources are there, I know that there are even apps out there or services out there where employees can get in contact with a therapist, or they can chat with a therapist. So there are actually some startups out there trying to provide solutions for the workplace, where people can even be connected with professionals in case they face some troubles. Because of course, I remember when I was doing the one-on-ones myself, sometimes you're facing a situation where you're like, okay, I see you are struggling, but I also reach my limit where I can help. Of course, sometimes it's important that a person just seek professional help. So there is a limit as a manager what you can do. So I think of a hybrid where managers enter these discussions, told to their people, and then at some point for the more serious, so when it's more serious, more to have then also some professional something in place. But the key here, I think, is that it needs to be not a taboo. The problem is people say, I'm working too much, or it's too much for me and so on, but I'm not gonna say it, because if I say it, I'm gonna be seen as the weak one, or I'm gonna be seen the one who's not performing or whatever. This is the problem. So we have to break that barrier of like saying, of seeking for help and say, hey, it's too much for me. We don't have to see as something weak, but it's actually something very strong, and we need to have the right culture around it. Yeah.
Amazing. So in your opinion, how can young women navigate and overcome gender biases and stereotypes within their careers?
That's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one.
I think making like being assertive and saying it loud when you detect a situation or something where you say, hey, this is not okay, to be self-confident, and sometimes you can be even wrong, it doesn't matter, but to be self-confident and say, when you detect something, to just speak up and say it, and say, this is not okay. I know that for sure in some environment is not so easy, because some environment, now regardless of our gender or something, they might be toxic. So it's not that I would say try to avoid this environment if you can, but just to speak for yourself and say, no, it's not okay, or hey, I've seen this situation and I think it's not right. We need so this kind of attitude, I think it goes at least in the right direction. And of course, there is so much to do. I also sometimes don't know.
Okay, so last but not least, what message would you like to convey to young women who may be hesitant to pursue their ambitions, not just in tech, but in any high-pressure industry?
To dare to go for it, that there is nothing to lose, to just try it out, and to not think, this is too much for me, or I don't know, like just go for it. And also when it seems difficult, just try. And the worst that can happen is that you don't manage what you wanted. But even if you don't manage to reach whatever goal or something, in the process, you are going to learn so much. So to don't be afraid of failing, to not be afraid of maybe it's not the right for me, to just go for it and just try it out, and it's without fears. And I think, I think with such an approach, in any case, the learning is going to be so big that the learning alone is going to be already a win. So that would be my message.
Well, Nina, thank you so much for joining us. And is there any last message that you'd like to put out there, or?
Maybe the only thing is to I think I added at some point at a banner on LinkedIn to treat mental trauma and mental wounds as a broken leg, to really see as the same thing. That is, I think it would be, if society would see that, I think we would advance quite a lot.
Amazing. Thank you again.
You're welcome. It was great.
A huge thank you to Dr. Buffi for talking to us and offering us her invaluable advice. On behalf of MAM Group, we'd like to wish all of our female followers an amazing International Women's Day. It goes without saying that there still remains to be a lot of work to be done to combat the challenges faced by women, not just in the tech sector, but across many industries. But on days like these, we stand with every woman who continues to break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and pursue your dreams. Because you can. And if you need help from our recruitment team to get there, be sure to visit our website for top-tier job vacancies within tech, law, and finance in Germany.